Hey there guys, Marky here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome back to another episode where I'm going to be reading stories from Reddit. If you're new and you like my narration, I would absolutely love it if you subscribed. But with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn of the Barbie, and let's get right into today's episode. Posted by user Encryption29, titled, Would I be the asshole for reporting my mum and sister for stealing my car? So I, 24 male, live with my mum in a rural part of the USA. For context, when it comes to my sister, 37, she is much older and we come from different fathers and both grew up in split custody arrangements. We are not particularly close, almost acquaintances more so than siblings. I don't really feel any familial connection even though I love her. I don't feel obligated to bend backward for her. Well, sister lives 2 hours away, in a much more urban area, and is currently going through a divorce. Her and her ex-husband only had one vehicle, and it belongs to the ex-husband, so when they split, he took the car. Sister has 4 daughters and works a full-time job, whereas I, on the other hand, work from home and have no real external responsibilities. My mum came to me asking if my sister could borrow my car for a couple of months until the divorce is finalized, just so that she has a way of transporting her and her kids to wherever they need to be without the financial burden of purchasing another car or relying exclusively on ride-sharing. I just recently bought my car, a V8 Mustang, and it's my first vehicle ever. I didn't get a hand-me-down or get one as a present when I turned 16 or 18. I was basically immobile, except occasionally being allowed to drive my mum's car, or when my dad had me, I could get Ubers. Getting my own vehicle was extremely liberating, minus the loan, and I don't feel trapped at home. So when I was approached with this proposal, I flat out said no. I can totally understand the justification for letting her use my car for a couple of months, but aside from the fact that I don't want to lose my newfound sense of freedom, I also just don't want someone else driving my car, and maybe that's selfish of me. Over the last few days, my mum and sister have been trying to convince me to let her use the car, saying that she would pay for the car payment while she has the car, or that she would pay for the insurance if she has it longer than anticipated. No matter what they brought to the table, I kept saying no, much to their dissatisfaction. Fast forward to this morning, I realized that my mum isn't home. I opened our garage to see that her car was still there, but mine was not. I immediately know what has happened, and I call my mum about the situation. She just tries to calm me down and have me try to picture it from my sister's point of view, but I'm just flushed with rage, and instead, just tell her that I'm going to report the vehicle as stolen instead. She just hung up the phone. As of now, I presume the car is down with my sister, and I am seriously considering reporting it stolen and naming her and my sister as perpetrator and conspirator. I really don't want it to go that far, and I hope that we could instead work this out, but what I initially said as an angry threat, I'm starting to really consider as an option. I just don't know if it's worth burning so many bridges over a car, but the fact that my family won't respect my boundaries or my property is just so frustrating. Would I be the asshole? It's insane that your mum has a car and she's not willingly giving up her car because her ability to drive around trumps yours. You know, just like a lot of people are more than happy to spend your money, but not theirs. Oh my god, take in this poor soul of a family member, but I'm not going to take them in because my hands are tied, even though I have a spare guest room over here. Your mum just tried to straight up enact some vigilante justice here, and I hope that this bites her in the ass. I really do, because you didn't deserve to be treated like this from your mum. As unfortunate as this situation is for this single mother of 4 kids, it's not your problem, and this shouldn't be forced upon you. I think you've done everything in your power to stop this from happening. I think they're going to be pissed off at you if you report the vehicle, but I think it's the right thing to do, so do it, and it doesn't make you an asshole. In the comments, Carpe Cyprinidae says, "Not the asshole. This is absolutely theft and they need to learn to respect your property. Call it in." If mum wanted sis to have a car so much, mum should have offered mum's car, not your car. There is no way that your sister will respect and care for your car the same that you would. Also, with 4 daughters, it's only a matter of time before hamburger stains and soft drink spills start appearing. I would call the police. It's the only way, apparently, to get your point across, as you have said no multiple times. This If I were feeling inclined to warn them, I would give 15 minutes on top of the time that it takes to drive from her home or work to OP's place. That's more than generous. They may say that this will ruin her life. But no, she is ruining her life by stealing an effing car. She has the opportunity to bring it back right the F now, or get picked up from her home or work by the police. The most recent activity on OP's account is 8 hours ago. I hope they've gone quiet because they've been dealing with this since an hour after posting and immediately being hit with dozens of supporting comments. Please update us when you're ready, OP. The only thing that concerns me about taking the nuclear option here is that from what it sounds like at least, they do have leverage over him, or the mum does at least, because I'm assuming the mum owns the house that he lives in. I know for me, if I were ready to take the police route, I'd also be prepared to get kicked out of the house and make sure that I have all of my stuff prepared to go beforehand. Giving someone a police record is kind of a big flaming bridge you gotta be ready to leave behind for good. OP should try to move out regardless, but they mentioned that they pay their fair share in one of the comments. They can't be thrown out without a proper eviction process. To my knowledge, I'm not a lawyer or even American. Emotional Fan 7011 says, "Report it. Your sister cannot transport 4 kids in your car. It isn't practical at all, especially if some are in car seats and booster seats. A Mustang wouldn't be able to accommodate that. And she's saying that she'll pay for your insurance, but is she insured? OP, not the asshole. Call them. Say they have 1 hour to return my car, and then I'm calling the police." Also, how cheap are Mustangs in the US? In Germany, the monthly payment alone, if you lease or finance over a reasonable time span, would be enough to lease and insure your own car and have something left over for gas. Well, that depends on the model, but they're more affordable here than in Europe. No import taxes. I got one that was a little older than OP's, which was also my first car, and I only had to get a loan for a couple $1,000s. It was paid off in a few years. Update. Thank you everyone for all the input into this situation. I sincerely appreciate it. I ended up giving them an ultimatum to return my car by business close tonight, and if they do, I would be willing to move past it and not let it affect any future relationships. I said I would also pitch in a small amount of money to help my sister rent and buy her own car. But if they don't return it by business close, I will be filing a police report that my vehicle has been stolen and that it was my mum who was the perpetrator and my sister is a conspirator. To answer a couple of questions all at once, my mum has her own car but doesn't want to lend hers out because she needs it for work every day. I had offered to let her use mine for work and she lend out her car to sister, but she refuted this idea, saying that she doesn't feel comfortable driving my car and that she needs ample space for medical supplies. She's an in-home nurse. I am well aware that my living situation will change if I call the police on my mum and sister, but honestly, the living situation is already compromised. Regardless of the resolution, I will be moving out as immediately as possible, as I am financially stable enough to do so. This whole thing is just the straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't put it in the original post, but I've been getting a lot of comments regarding living for free at my mother's house. We split bills 60-40 on basically everything. It's not truly 50-50, but absolutely by no means am I freeloading at my mum's house. We'll update again if the car has been returned or not. In the comments, Golf Signal 9401 says, "I just want to say this. A 2012 V8 Mustang only seats 4 people. Your sister has 4 kids. Your sister is tying the 4th to the roof? Seriously, call the cops. Also, call your insurance after you speak to the police in case there ends up being damage to the car. Moving is a great idea. You deserve to feel like your things are safe in your home." I read the original post and noticed that fact as well, but brushed it off. Now that I'm thinking about it again, depending on the ages of the children, some may be required to be in a car seat, and even more so, be forbidden to ride in the front seat, limiting seating even more so. Your living situation will and should change, regardless of calling the police or not. You said no, and they didn't respect you enough to abide by your decision over your property. That's the very first thing that needs to change. If your sister can make the car and insurance payments on a Mustang, she can afford an old beater temporarily. There is no reason for you to pitch in. The beater car is really what his sister needs anyway, a cheap cash car that will allow her to save her money for something better. Not doing that, making payments and insurance on a V8 Mustang owned and driven by a 24-year-old. The insurance alone is probably hefty. And now, onto the final update. The car has been returned, so the police will not need to get involved. However, there is body damage that wasn't there the last time I used it. Can't tell if it was intentional damage or not, but it honestly doesn't matter. In the picture is a silvery white 2012 V8 Mustang with scratches on the bumper and a dent in the fender. I will be getting all relevant papers in order, and then we'll be lawyering up so the damages are paid for. As soon as this entire situation is resolved, I will be moving out. I've learned to never keep my keys out ever again. Thank you so much for everyone for your input and advice. In the comments, Sorry Try Again says, you should still file a police report because the insurance in court will need it. Plus, you don't know if they hit something and ran. You don't want it coming back on you. That's what I've been saying. And these people here are telling him not to call the police and give them extra time to return the car. Guaranteed he's going to be on the hook for a lot more than just body damage. All this drama just to not burn bridges. For real. His insurance may not cover this if they find out he knew that it was taken and didn't contact the appropriate authorities. Not necessarily. I used to work in auto insurance claims. Since the keys were in an accessible place and OP lives with their mom, if she takes the car, it's usually considered implied permissive use. This is in place to protect insurers if a household member uses their car without explicit permission. To nullify that, OP would have to file a police report and sign an affidavit that the car was stolen, which would cause the same issues they were trying to avoid. Auto insurance is a little better than a scam, and companies look for a reason not to cover shit whenever possible. But they aren't going to refuse to cover their customers' damages because a family member took the car without asking. Imagine the lawsuits they'd face for that. Another former claim rep here. Since OP and Mom are related and live together, Mom would likely always have coverage under the policy regardless. Again, to protect the insured. If Mum, a resident relative, took the car and gave sister permission to use it, the policy would likely reflect that as permissive use too. Filing a police report is a good idea. However, OP should expect and accept the insurance company's decision when they most likely say that they will cover this as a collision loss and not a theft loss. Of course, this varies claim to claim, insurance company to insurance company, and state to state, but generally that's how the auto insurance will work. From my experience, that damage looks to me like whoever was driving the vehicle struck a stationary object. I don't think that it was a multi-vehicle collision. OP, this is an all-around crappy situation, and I hope you can find somewhere better to live soon. Pharaoh of the Artifice says, yikes, intentional or not, that damage shows absolutely that these people could never be trusted with the property that they insisted on taking. And now, onto the final update. After the overwhelming majority of you told me that I need to go to the police in my last post, I've decided to report the entire situation to my local sheriff's office. I will do everything in my power to make it so charges are not pressed, which I hope is likely since the car was returned. We'll still be doing everything I mentioned in my previous post regarding getting all papers in order and moving out as soon as possible. We'll probably still look into getting a lawyer just in case. I told the sheriff's office that the car was stolen for approximately 16 hours from my mum and sister, and that when the car was returned there was body damage that wasn't previously there. They are sending over a deputy to take a look at my car and question myself and my mum about the situation. I have group text chats that list my ultimatum, as well as some texts that were exchanged previously about my mum and sister, essentially begging to use my car, while I kept saying no. I will be making my mum or sister pay for the body damage, and if insurance won't, I will be going to court for it. I don't care how petty that is, or if it just opens an even larger can of worms. I absolutely refuse to pay $2,000+ for body damage repairs that I didn't create. Hopefully this is the actual final update I will have to post regarding this situation. Regardless of the damage, I'm just glad that I have my car back. Family situation is beyond busted, and I will be going no contact with my sister for an indefinite amount of time, and will do the same with my mum as soon as I move out, which is hopefully by the end of the month. Thank you all for your advice and input throughout this whole ordeal. In the comments, Prestigious Table says, thank God, and while it's not fully in your control, charges being pressed wouldn't be the end of the world. They don't seem to understand that actions have consequences, and this may be the way that they learn that. Good luck, OP. Also, a heads up, your rates may go up with your insurance, so maybe make them aware of the police reports. Generally, a DA won't pursue it if the victim is unwilling to cooperate unless it's a major crime. Even some felonies like assault won't be acted on because it's not worth their time if the victim isn't cooperating. That's what I said earlier, and many people rush to tell me that the DA could do whatever they want. The way I see it is if OP doesn't want to pursue it, the DA won't waste their time on what may look like a family matter gone wrong. Quote, I don't care how petty that is. That amount of damage on the car is far from petty. I'd take them to the cleaners over it. Definitely sounds like a revenge smash as well. I remember when OP was posting this, and I hadn't seen any comments suggesting that it may have been intentional. And personally, that's what I was assuming to be the case. I mean, the sister not being an atrocious driver wouldn't shock me, but what are the chances that happened in such a brief period of time after stealing the car? Nate O84 says, damn, I would have made the ultimatum way sooner. You have 90 minutes. If the car isn't in the driveway in pristine condition and my keys are not in my hand, we'll get police involved. Oh, fill the tank too while you're at it. And yeah, that about wraps it up for that post. If I were in OP's shoes, would be supremely pissed off too. And, I understand why he wants to pull back the charges. Although yeah, those bridges are well and truly burned. He is going no contact with these two, though I respect him for reducing the fallout as much as possible. This was not at all an easy situation for OP to navigate. I would be really pissed off if my car was stolen by family and used in such a manner. But thank God more damage wasn't done. Thank God he has the ability to chase them up for money. Anyway, I want to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below. Let me know. Our next post is by user ThrowRA77474, titled, Am I the arsehole for not wanting to use my college fund to pay for my brother's treatment? My parents divorced when I was about 7 because my dad had admitted to having an affair. My mum and I moved out of our house and into an apartment, while my dad immediately moved his mistress into our house because she was pregnant with my twin brothers. My mum was devastated, but she quickly picked herself up for us. She went back to school, and as a result, she continued climbing up in her career. My mum adjusted better to going from a double-income household to a single income, and was able to contribute a substantial amount of money to my college fund. My dad, on the other hand, had a harder time, as he now has to support a family of 4, and sometimes 5, on a single income, as his wife is a stay-at-home mother. My dad did not have much disposable income, and so did not contribute as much to the fund. I'm going to finish school soon, and I have a good shot at getting into my first choices of college. Unfortunately, my brother, 10 male, was diagnosed with a kidney disease, which has progressed to where he needs to be on dialysis. My dad is drowning in medical debt, so my mum agreed that he no longer needed to pay child support. The specialist had suggested a different treatment for my brother, as most other treatments didn't help or stopped working, and they're running out of options short of a transplant. Not doable at this time. This treatment is not covered by insurance, and it costs a lot. My dad can't take out a loan due to debt. Dad and his wife sat me down when I was over and asked if I would be willing to let them borrow my college fund to pay off my brother's treatment. They offered to pay the money back, but I knew they wouldn't be able to. I really don't want to give them the money because I know if I don't get any scholarships, I wouldn't be able to go to the college I want to without going into debt myself. My future would be at risk, and I know my dad wouldn't help if I needed it. In addition, the money technically belongs to my mum. I can't just give it away, and I know she would refuse to give them the money. My dad and his wife are furious at both my mum and I, and are trying to guilt me into it. I do feel terrible for my little brother. Am I the arsehole? Edit to add, my dad does have a second job that he works on the weekend, and his wife homeschools the boys and is a full-time caregiver for my brother. My dad's family disowned him when the affair came to light. He did get some help from his brother and sister, but they can only give so much. I do think I was his last option. His wife did not have a lot of family. And lastly, of course, I would feel bad if something happened to my brother. He's just a little kid. But I would want to help him with my own money, and I can only do that if I start my career debt-free. I also don't want to risk my own future. This is a ridiculously difficult situation to tackle, and I can't imagine it's a very nice situation for you to be put in. I don't really like the fact that they're going through you to try and guilt the money out of you, instead of going through your mother and working out something that's reasonable. You are still very much young and very much impressionable. I don't think that it is up to you to decide what to do with this money. But at the same time, it's also like if you don't help, your little brother is possibly going to die. This is an absolutely terrible situation to be caught in the middle of, but I stand by you in this circumstance and say that I don't think you should do it. I think you should stick by what you're saying here and just don't give them the money. And that wouldn't make you the arsehole, so not the arsehole. In the comments, Fancy Pants Dancer says, not the arsehole. The money isn't yours, firstly. It was allocated by your mother for a specific thing. You're damn right that you are not getting the money back if you loaned them. It was grossly inappropriate for your father to ask for the money from you, who I presume is a minor. And he already said his mum wouldn't go for it, so I don't see it happening. I don't blame the OP's mother for not going for it. Her husband had an affair and kicked the OP and their mother out of the family home. The mother was pretty generous with agreeing that the father didn't have to pay child support anymore, especially considering the cause of his debt is also the direct result of his affair. OP's mum sounds like an amazing woman, literally bootstrapping it while raising a child as a single parent, managing to contribute enough to create a significant college fund, and now she voluntarily gives up child support because of the health of a child that was now the result of the affair that broke her marriage. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she said to give up the college fund and that she would still take care of school, just because there is a sick child. But man, it wouldn't be right to even ask her though. Well, that's the thing. I feel like the mum would probably do it, but for the fact you have to pay taxes on the money if it's in a 529 savings and investment plan if you take it out for anything other than college. Capmanor 1755 says, not the arsehole. You have a lovely, understanding, and clear-eyed view of this. He would never pay you back, and you'd be stuck under college debt for the next 20 years. Ask your mum to be the bad guy. She can have her divorce attorney send a letter telling him the funds are hers to control, and she's not giving up years of her savings for him and his affair partner's expenses. She can also tell him that she'll take him to court to end his custody if he's trying to financially abuse a 17-year-old. That's a bit of a feint, since you could choose to go no contact at any point, but it might shock him out of his behavior. Also, his access to that account needs to be removed ASAP. And OP replies, he does not have access, only mum does. Your mum is smart. Tell her what your dad asked you. Yeah, just keep putting this on your mum. This is not something that you should be dealing with. Tell him that it's not your money and your mum has said no. If he thinks that he has some legal claim to it, he can get a lawyer. OP, this is a great point. As a mum, I would 100% want to take this on for my kid, because no kid should be burdened with this. This is the kind of shit that we protect our kids from. Exactly this kind of shit. Tell your mum if you haven't. Flat out ask her to deal with it. Ask her to say that you wanted to, but she won't let you legally. I would lie for you as a mum to make things less uncomfortable. I would take any grief that would have come your way because funk that shit. You are still a kid. You may be healthy, but you're still a kid and deserve to be taken care of and protected. Update. So after I called my mum, she left work early and picked me up from Dad's house. She took me to coffee and I explained what happened. After talking a bit, she said that I could either keep the fund as is and not give Dad the money, or we can take the money that Dad had contributed and give that back to him. I told her I wanted to give Dad back the money that he put in. After we finished our coffee, Mum withdrew the exact amount that Dad had put in over the years. Mum also matched the amount and added it to give to Dad. I waited in the car while she gave Dad the money, and he was upset because the money wasn't enough. Mum told him that that's all he's going to get from her and threatened to take him to court if he and his wife keep harassing me. This is probably the last update, as I am going low contact with Dad for now. Thank you everyone for the genuine support and advice. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.